Hi, everyone. Happy Monday. And today, for our LinkedIn Live, I am going to be talking about diabetes in the workplace. So, people with diabetes live with the disease all day, every day, including at work. Although diabetic patients may face unique challenges at the worksite, these challenges can be overcome easily with the help of an informed employer. And employers can maximize the health and productivity of their workers with diabetes by being more aware of common concerns in the workplace. So that was my thought process behind this LinkedIn Live and this podcast interview, so that we can bring more knowledge to employers about how to make accommodations and adjustments to the work environment or schedule to reduce absenteeism and presenteeism, increase productivity, concentration, and energy levels for those workers. And it would also help the employers reduce the chance of on the job injury and help them stay in compliance with the law too. So, to learn how we can make these accommodations for the diabetic workers and even prevent diabetes in the workplace, um, which should be the goal, I have a special guest with me. She is Ana Almedia DoRosario, who is a community outreach coordinator for Lifespan. She's a certified group fitness instructor and certified health coach. Much of her work has been focused on coordinating health and wellness programs in public health and youth development settings. And under her leadership, Lifespan's diabetes prevention program was the recipient of Grace Diaz Blue Light Award in 2022. So, there's nobody better than her to help us out and learn more about diabetes. So, welcome, Anna. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me today.
I'm so glad that you could make it. And, we're doing this. Thanks for coming. Um,
Absolutely.
I would like to start with like just the basics of diabetes, like
Mhm.
diabetes 101. How do we define diabetes? What is it?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think it's good to have that perspective, right? So, diabetes is considered a chronic health condition and it affects your body's ability to turn food into energy, right? So, normally what's happening is when we eat, our bodies break down the food or most of the food that we eat and it turns it into glucose or blood sugar, right? And it releases it into our bloodstream. And then we're utilizing that as energy to go about our day, to do the things that we want to do, whether, working, exercising, spending time with our kids, spending time with our families, all those things. Um, when our blood sugar goes up because we've eaten, right? That's a normal process. It signals our pancreas to release the insulin.
Sure.
And so the insulin acts like a key, think of it that way, to let the blood sugar into our body cells so that we can use that energy. What happens with diabetes is that that's not happening in a normal way. So with type 1 diabetics, your body doesn't make enough insulin. Okay. With type 2 diabetics, it means that the body isn't producing enough insulin. It's not utilizing it the right way. And so our blood sugars go up and they don't come down the way that they should. About 90 to 95% of people who have diabetes have type 2. So that's something to keep in mind. It's the one that's actually preventable. That's the population that I work with. So just something to keep in mind when we're talking about diabetes.
Yeah, I like how you just broke down the two types, and the most prevalent is the type 2 diabetes, which is preventable. And that's key because we're going to talk about it more a little later.
Yep.
Now, I want to address diabetes in workplace. And, is is taking care of, is being informed about diabetes and taking care of your diabetic workers? Is it good for business? Why should employers consider adding programs like a diabetes prevention program as an employee benefit? Because, it's a cost. It's a cost to the workplace.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
what do you have to say about that?
Yeah. So I like to keep things in perspective. And when I want to do that, I like to look at numbers. So just a few quick statistics. When you're looking at the cost of diabetes nationally in the United States, specifically, which is where I'm at, 106.3 billion, or 26% of that cost, is attributed to lost productivity at work, unemployment from chronic disability, and premature mortality. So that's just one big number that you can keep in the mind of your head, in the back of your mind. Reduced work productivity due to diabetes can account for 35.8 billion annually in indirect costs. Same thing with absenteeism or missed work days. It accounts for 5.4 billion in annual indirect costs. So that's a lot of money that's just being, you know, funneled into the fact that we have folks with diabetes in our workforce.
Right.
And one thing that startled me when I was looking up some of these statistics is if people with diabetes participated in the workforce, just like their peers without diabetes, there would be 2 million more people between the ages of 18 and 65 in the workforce.
Wow.
2 million people
Yeah.
that aren't working due to
That's
diabetes.
striking. That's striking for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last one that I'll leave you with is think of 10 of your employees who may have prediabetes. 8 of those 10 employees don't know that they have it. That's scary.
Yeah.
Because that means they're not learning to manage it before it becomes full-blown diabetes. So programs like the diabetes prevention program can help to reduce those costs, help to reduce, absenteeism, presenteeism, all of those things that you talked about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that, 80% of the employees don't know about that is, again, another striking statistic.
Yeah.
And that probably is all the more reason to have a program like this. So there's a strong business case, right, for helping
Absolutely.
employees with diabetes stay healthier. And although once you have diabetes, I mean, so far it cannot be cured, it can be managed well. I have worked with clients who have been able to manage it well with exercise and nutrition, like being able to control the blood sugar levels by eating a balanced diet, maintaining a healthy body weight, and exercising regularly.
Yep.
And that's where the well-being programs really pay off for
Absolutely.
employers and
Absolutely.
employees, because it's not, we don't want people to just rely on medication all the time. I have worked with people who have been able to get off of their insulin
Nice.
just because they were so good, like they were so dedicated and they worked really hard
That's
on
amazing.
changing their lifestyle, or they were just taking it as needed, so
Mhm.
it wasn't regular. So I am really interested in learning more about the diabetes prevention program. What is it?
Mhm.
How does it work? What are the goals? Because what if we could stop it in its tracks? Because
Yeah.
we know diabetes is it's a disease of lifestyle. It's a lifestyle disease, I like to call it, because
Mhm.
when our ancestors, were so active and we were always working, we know diabetes was not prevalent. It wasn't as prevalent as it is today. Now that we are leading this sedentary lifestyle, which is leading to this disease. So tell me more about the prevention program.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely do that. So, the diabetes prevention program, so first of all, it's an evidence-based program that is monitored by the CDC. So, any information that people want regarding the diabetes prevention program, you can always go to the CDC website and find out more. But to give you just a quick snapshot, it's a year-long lifestyle change program, going back to what you were saying, lifestyle, right? And what we're looking for is for participants in the program to lose 5 to 7% of their body weight for the first year of the program. So this is a year-long program. And I know that that sounds scary for most people,
Yeah.
but it's broken down into two phases. The first is the first half of the program, the first half of the year of the program,
Sure.
where participants are learning how to, make those small lifestyle changes and make them become part of their day to day, right? So every week they're coming and they're deciding on one small change that they're going to make. Like, instead of drinking that soda 3 times a day, I'm going to cut it down to 2, and then I'm going to cut it down to 1, and then to nothing, and I'm going to drink more water instead. So making those small changes over time and making it a habit, because habits take time to develop, right? So that's what we're focused on in the first half. We're talking about different topics, like not just nutrition, not just physical activity, and how to move more in your day to day, not just when you're exercising, but even, when you're at work. You're talking about sleep habits. You're talking about stress management. We're talking about all these other things that affect our life in the day to day and how to manage that. And like, maybe this week don't really have time to cook. So what is my game plan? Planning ahead, like all those things you get to strategize. And the nice thing about the program is that it's in a group setting. So you spend a whole year with folks in a group setting. You're coming in, you have that camaraderie, which is really nice in the workforce. If you're doing that, right? If you're doing it with your colleagues, you learn to support one another because you're coming with the same goals, and nobody wants to see the other person fail. Everyone's coming together. You're struggling this week, they will help you figure out, okay, I couldn't meet my goal. How can I adjust it? Because we want SMART goals, right? So they're really looking at, how are we doing this? How are we doing this together? And how is each person individually meeting their goals? So that's the one thing that I really like about the program, is that group camaraderie, even though like you're working on your own individual goals. And the other thing that I just want to point out that I started talking about is, it's a year-long program. People think it's scary to invest that time for themselves. What's really striking to me is, initially I hear that hesitation in people's voices when I'm on the phone with them, telling them about the program. And, they start in the program weekly. CDC expects you to do weekly for the first 16 weeks and then taper off to monthly for the last 6 months.
Okay.
And we do it a little bit differently. So we do it every week for the first 4 months, so 16 weeks. Then we taper off to every other week because people are less likely to drop out that way.
Sure.
And then we taper off to every month, sorry. And so when we start tapering off, people are like, wait, no, we're not here next week. What do you mean we're not here next week? They get so used to it and they enjoy that camaraderie and that accountability that they get from having to come back and report back on their goals.
Yeah. I can totally see like the hesitation at first, because a year sounds like such a long time. But I always say this to my corporate clients and also like my individual clients, that guess what? The year is going to pass no matter what. You take action or you don't take action, it's going to pass.
That's a good way to put it.
So either you're improving in that year or you're actually going backwards. So that's your choice right there. If you look at it that way, then you would be like, yeah, I mean, I do want to invest time in this. And the way it's broken down, that's really manageable. Like,
and it's only an hour of your week.
Yeah, exactly. But I know that it would pay off so well for your health and the health of your employees. One of the things that you just mentioned, and I want to highlight it, is not just the time investment, but also that it's not only about nutrition and exercise. We are going to talk about all the things that are impacting your lifestyle. And a lot of times we just get stuck on this fact, like, at first it was just exercise, and now people are learning, okay, nutrition is the biggest part, this biggest component of it. And then we of course want to do more activity too. Like I say, walking in certain cases, of course, walking can be an exercise form of exercise,
Mhm.
but walking is just activity,
It
like
is.
it's not structured exercise. You have to have structured exercise program too. So we're learning more and more with these programs, and that's another benefit of these programs. If
Mhm.
you are starting this program at your workplace, you can make a huge impact on your workforce, of course, with the people with diabetes, and probably bringing this kind of education to people without diabetes too, so that they can understand how to prevent it. So that's awesome. I would like to give our listeners some tips, like top 3 tips
Mhm.
or habits that they could actually, implement if they wanted to, starting today, to prevent diabetes.
Yeah. So some quick tips for things you can do at work. One thing, actually, I just started this in my own workplace, just because I was like, I can't be at my desk all day. Starting movement breaks, right? Just to give you an example, we had one participant in our program a few years ago, and one of her successes was because she was committed to our program, and she needed to figure out, between work and kids and parents and all these things, how am I going to fit 150 minutes of activity each week, because she was being held accountable to that. So what she did was she grabbed a coworker and said, I need to go for a walk every day after lunch, will you please join me so I'm not alone? Before she knew it, she had started a walking club, right? So people were walking after lunch at work. That's a nice group exercise, right? And if all you have is 10 minutes during that time, take the 10 minutes and then you can do the rest of your physical activity another time. So finding small moments that you can incorporate physical activity, right? If you want to do it virtually, find some YouTube videos. I do that sometimes, where, there's a good instructor that can keep you moving for a good 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however long you have, and keep that going. So that's one thing that you can do. Another tip is something that I alluded to before. Making changes over time is really hard, right? So
Yeah.
you want to make it small changes over time. And that's something that we preach in our program all of the time. So something as simple as, I mentioned soda, and it could be something else. It could be somebody who's drinking that coffee cup full of sugar and whatever else you like to put in your coffee, right? So how can you reduce the calories from that? Maybe it's making that coffee cup a little smaller, or taking less cream and sugar, replacing that soda with water once a day, twice a day, however you feel you can manage, right? Another one that I like is your regular size plate. You can buy smaller plates at the store and just make your plate smaller, so you're eating smaller portions. And I guarantee you, because we've done this with participants before, where we've challenged them to go from their regular size plate to a smaller plate, and see if you're still hungry after eating from that smaller plate. And we eat with our eyes just as much as we eat with our mouth. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, like this plate looks so full, versus a bigger plate, which we're inclined to fill up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
These are really good tips. And I want to highlight the one that you said, like, drinking your coffee. A lot of people do start their day with coffee, which is, I do too.
Yeah.
Full disclosure,
You
I
need
love
that
my
boost. You
coffee.
need that boost.
Yeah, I love my cup of coffee in the morning, but what are you putting in there?
Yeah.
Like, is it really filled with just sugary creamer? Because what's important with the diabetes prevention, and then of course people who have diabetes to manage it, we want you to understand that it's the sugar levels that are driving your insulin sensitivity.
Mm.
So you want your body to be sensitive to insulin, which it isn't at this time if you have been diagnosed with prediabetes or diabetes. So for that, to happen, we have to try to remove most of the sugar, like refine. And when I say sugar, I'm talking about the refined sugar from your diet.
Mm-hmm.
That includes your coffee creamer, that
Yeah.
includes your soda, diet or otherwise, because they both impact your body's blood glucose levels the same way.
Right.
And when you're taking in especially in the form of liquid, although it could be food too, and what we see is that the insulin spikes up really
Mm-hmm.
high, and we
Yeah.
want to prevent those insulin spikes in your bloodstream throughout the day, because that also leads to energy crashes, and
Yeah.
those energy crashes are going to make you really lazy and slow at work, and
Yeah.
that's how it's going to prevent you from being productive.
Yeah.
So that's the connection that I really want people to understand, that I know sugar and fat is so palatable. Like, it feels good. It feels good when you consume it, but the way it acts within your body, how it changes your physiology, is
Mm.
where it really becomes a problem. So maybe just keeping those things for occasional purposes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've switched to black coffee, but if that's not the case for you, maybe put just a little bit of unsweetened creamer to give it a little color, to make it a little milder, so that you can still enjoy it. And movement is so big. I love the movement concept that you just shared, and the story you shared about that client who was asking her coworkers to come along with her, because that, of course, gives you accountability. But there's that power of community, which you talked about even in the program itself,
Mhm.
right? The
Exactly.
power of community, because you're not alone.
Exactly.
People are When we are in a group, we are tribal animals, right? Human
Mhm.
beings. So when we are in a group, we don't want the other person to fail,
Exactly.
right? Yeah. So you're always going to have that support, and that support is what's going to carry you through.
Mhm.
And you'd be surprised at how what people can do when they're in a group, because they have
Yeah.
so much support.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I can tell you, like, I recently had two interns actually visiting one of our pro classes in action. And, they walked into a day where there was this one participant who she was struggling, right? She came in and they were reporting on, how the week went, what their goals were, and whether they met those goals. And it was just funny because it was a similar recurrence every single time, right? I can't remember the exact details of what that one thing was, but she was just struggling to meet that goal. And what was nice was that before the lifestyle coach could chime in, her peers who had been on this journey with her turned around to her and said, wait, hold on a second. You told us before that in order for XYZ to happen, you need to do this. Have you been doing this? No. So they came down on her, but it was like in a loving way and really holding her accountable, right? It was like, this is what you said you would do in order to accomplish this, and you're not doing it. So if you want to meet that goal, stop making excuses. And this was after being in the program for 9 months with each other, right? So they feel they can talk to each other and hold each other accountable in that way. Had that been 6 months before, that conversation would have gone very differently. The
Of
coach
course.
would have handled it.
Of
Um,
course.
but I think because of the way that the groups come together and people get to know each other and their own goals, and like you said, they don't want to see each other fail. We're in this together. I'm trying to lose 5 pounds. You're trying to lose 10 pounds. It doesn't matter. We're in this together, right?
Yeah.
And so they're able to hold each other accountable during the good times to celebrate, but also during the tough times when we need that reality check.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I love this, because having the group hold you accountable like that is golden, because we have blinders, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
course, we try to commit to stuff, and then we can't, because life happens, and we kind of have blinders. But the other people around us, especially in a group, can notice it right away, and they
Yep.
brought it up. I am with all the information that you're providing us here, I'm thinking this is a great way to build your team too. Like this is a team
Absolutely.
building activity,
It
if you
is.
right.
It is.
Yeah, at work. And we know how important teams are at work because, you're not gonna work alone. The
Mm-hmm.
team has to have that project. So think of this program as actually a team building activity and bring it into your workplace. So, okay, now I'm curious, Anna, what
Mm-hmm.
steps should employers take to add this benefit to
Yeah.
their offerings? Like what are the options? I'm thinking, because you explained a lot of the process, like how it works. But
Mm-hmm.
what if an employer wants to bring this program on? What can they do?
Yeah. So a few things that I would recommend. First of all, the CDC has an employer and insurer toolkit that they should check out, right? Because it has like a lot of information, probably a lot more than I could offer right now in terms of next steps.
Is
So
there
just
a website
yeah. So
or
the
okay,
website is cdc.gov/diabetes/prevention.
got it. Okay, I'll include this link in our show notes.
Yep. And so they are able to go there, they can download the toolkit, look at the information there. But a few things that I would say is look at what your corporate wellness program already is. What are your offerings? Can the diabetes prevention program be something that you add to that?
Okay.
In our case, we're working with a particular employer, and what they did was they went through their insurer, and the insurer, came to us and asked us to deliver this program on behalf of the employer.
Okay.
Also consider if you're offering this program, because it's a year-long program and you want people to commit long-term, right?
Mhm.
Are there incentives that you can give to your participants, to your employees who complete the program? We've seen that be very effective. So in this case, this particular employer opted to offer $500 to anyone who completes the program.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a nice little bonus that they
Yeah.
can get if they complete the program. They put in the work, they put in the dedication, they get rewarded.
Okay.
You can also consider intermittent incentives as well, which is something we do in our program as a standard, but I won't get into that here. The other thing to consider is whether you want to offer the program either in person, virtual, or both. And that's obviously going to depend on the company, the nature of what you're doing, when can you engage folks, right? And also employee preference. So you might want to put out a survey if you're not sure whether it's better to do it virtual or in person. And then based on that, based on the information that you get from the toolkit, right on the CDC website, you can even look up diabetes prevention programs in your area. Just put in your zip code. So this is for United States folks. Put in your zip code and you'll be able to identify in-person programs in your area, but also companies that offer it virtually.
Okay.
And there's also a distance learning component. I won't get into what all that means, but there's a difference between distance learning, which means we're logging in at the same time, where there's the lifestyle coach leading the group just like they would in person. And then there's the virtual, which means it's self-paced. So they're a little bit different, but you can explore, as you're researching the information, figure out which one is best for your company.
Okay. Great, great. Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of the distance learning and the virtual component and the
Mhm.
difference between the two. So thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing from you is that you can go, or the employers can go on the CDC's website and request more information, and then from there they assign like you are a community outreach professional, so they assign somebody like you to
No, so you would go and you would search up based on the zip code of where you were located,
sure.
the different programs. So if I just go in, there's a spot where you can put the zip code to identify programs in your area, and you will find a listing with
Okay.
contact information, and then you can reach out.
Okay, and then the work starts from there. They would send their lifestyle professionals out,
Mhm.
or in person if it's in person, or they would set
Yeah,
it up
yeah.
virtually.
And
Okay.
then you can talk to if you're looking to do it in person, the provider in your area, you can talk to them about like, would you be able to do this for our company? And then, go from there and figure out the details.
Yeah, yeah. I love the incentives part of the program too,
Mm-hmm.
because that definitely would motivate the employees to partake
Yes,
and complete the program.
absolutely.
And in the end, I think everybody wins with this program. Like the employers can save money
Mm-hmm.
on healthcare costs and all the other statistics you mentioned, like in terms of productivity, absenteeism, and the cost of presenteeism. And employees can be healthier, right? They can enjoy life and work
Mm-hmm.
without the concern or of just constantly thinking about the disease.
Yeah.
So that's great, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
And one last thing I would mention about that is a bonus is that you're showing your employees that you care about their well-being. And because we're addressing so many different things, not just diabetes within the program, right? Because when we're talking about exercise, sleep, stress, that affects us beyond just diabetes, right?
Mm.
So that's affecting people's health in so many more ways. So to me, it's a great investment.
Yeah, it's holistic, right? We're bringing everything in because it's not just one component that affects your blood sugar levels too and your diabetes. Of course, sleep has to be part of it because if you're not well rested, you're going to end up eating more sugar during
Mm-hmm.
the day. And then the stress plays a huge role. People do a lot of stress eating. And of course, to comfort ourselves, we always reach for high carb, high sugar foods. That's just the way our primitive brain works. It's not your fault. But,
Yeah.
just being educated and knowledgeable about it
Mm-hmm.
would be like, okay, I'm reaching for this, but why am I reaching? Hang on, stop, right?
Mm-hmm.
I need to prioritize my health. And just the way you said, the main reason for implementing a program like this is to show your employees you care. Employees are your biggest asset, right? Without employees, most of the businesses are not going to survive. So there you go. That's it. That's the reason why you should have it. Anna, this was so awesome. Thank you for all the information you shared. If people want to get in touch with you and learn more about it, also please share with us where is your group
Yeah.
implementing this program? Because I think I didn't mention that, and I'll let you take that lead. So, how can people get in touch with you, and where is Lifespan implementing these programs?
Yeah. So we are located in Providence, Rhode Island. The Lifespan Community Health Institute is part of the Lifespan Health System. So we're one of the largest healthcare systems in Rhode Island. And so my department does a lot of public health work. This is just part of that. And for anyone who's looking to get in touch with me and learn more about it, they can reach me. My email is kind of long, so we'll make sure to put it in the show notes. But it's the first initial of my first name, A, and then my last name without the hyphen. So ALMEIDADOROSARIO at lifespan.org. So it's A Almeida DoRosario at lifespan.org.
Awesome. And also, you're pretty active on LinkedIn, so people can reach
Yes,
out to you,
they can.
DM you on LinkedIn, and I'll include your email in
Yeah.
the show notes, of course. So that's great. Thank you so much, Anna. Thanks for explaining all of this and sharing. I learned a lot today. I wasn't aware of all the components of the prevention program, although we know each other for a while now from
Yeah.
our networking community. So thank you. Thanks for sharing this today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for
Thanks.
having me.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.